Before we get started, just a quick PSA. I don't know how many of you know this, but May is Mental Health Awareness Month. There's a reason that's important to me. The last time I was on a stage in any capacity was just over a year ago. It was at a client's conference with two of my very good friends, Matt Ackerman and Matt Halloran. And we got up on stage, and I started having a panic attack. I'm thinking, what the hell is going on? This is driving me crazy. It had been going on for a long time. So I'm trying to figure this out, racking my brain. What's happening? Why is it that I can't breathe? My heart feels like it's going to launch out of my chest and hit my niche, sitting right there. And it was driving me absolutely nuts. So went online, went on social media as we do, and I found this amazing thread by an industry icon and who's now a good friend of mine, Penny Phillips. Penny Phillips is amazing. If you haven't met her, I hope that you get a chance to while you're here. Penny was being very candid about anxiety issues, and she actually inspired me to go and seek some counsel, seek some help, and so I did. Much to my surprise, I scored literally a 19 out of 21 on the anxiety scale. Wow. So, okay, that was happening. So now here I am, I'm good to go, I'm back. I'm very happy to be here on the PR panel. If anyone out there suffers from anxiety or you're grappling with anything like this, please talk to me. I'm happy to talk to you about it. I don't want to volunteer Penny to talk to you, but she was amazing. But please, let's have a chat at any time that you'd like. But let's get into PR now, shall we? As Angel alluded to, we've got a fantastic lineup here for you today. Sally Cates, PR legend. She runs all of PR and comms for Dynasty Financial Partners. I'm sure you're all familiar with Dynasty. It's an amazing wealth management company doing some fantastic things on the national scale, constantly cranking out news, always has a spokesperson out there in the press, manages the media with great skill. We have Vance Barse here. He's coming at us with the financial advisor view. So Vance at one point had himself a PR agency and then parted ways with that agency. Now Vance does PR himself. So we think it's very important for you today to get a perspective from an advisor who is out there in the media in a DIY capacity. And that takes a lot of guts. So we're going to hear from Vance today about how he does just that. Last but not least, my business partner, the legend Jimmy Moak. Jimmy and I were competitors for a very long time. When I left United Capital Financial Advisors many years ago, Jimmy took over that account. He never looked back, and he ran United Capital's PR the whole time, and he was actually doing some fantastic things there, actually surpassed everything I had done when I was in-house at United Capital. One day, we met at the Market Council Summit. You heard Brian Hamburger up here talking earlier. Market Council Summit is a fantastic networking event. Jimmy and I met, we hit it off, we started talking and daydreaming about what it would be like to play for the same team someday. Flash forward, Street Cred PR started in September of 2020, and my good friend Jimmy came over and joined us in March of 2021. I attribute him joining to our explosive growth since that time. He's just an incredible PR practitioner. He's a great mentor. He's a great coach, not only to me, but to our amazing team. So folks, this PR panel today has one objective. We want you to leave here understanding what PR is and whether or not it's right for your business. Is it right for you now? Will it be right for you down the line? What are the different types of public relations? And how do these PR practitioners approach PR? So the first step is we have to define PR, right? We have to actually define what it is, and we have to give you an understanding. So Sally, you can start us off. What do you think PR is? How do we define PR in your world with Dynasty?
Sure. So, I define public relations as telling your story externally via the media. So what differentiates it from advertising and sponsorship is no money's changing hands. Instead, you are earning that media through your compelling storytelling.
Fantastic. Vance?
Yes.
Outstanding. Jimmy?
For me, PR is taking what's up here, what's in here, and what we do internal at the firm with respect to our value proposition and leveraging that by way of financial media. And I do that for two reasons. One, because I spent 10 years consulting, and sometimes I jokingly say babysitting financial advisors all around the country. None of them are here, of course, because you all are great. And then two is because the public really doesn't know what it needs to know about our industry and the key questions to ask. And one way to do that in mass is by leveraging financial media.
Fantastic. Jimmy, bring us home.
I'd start off with it being defined as credibility marketing, meaning you have subject matter expertise in a wide range of topics and niches. I loved that riches, niches joke earlier. And it's how do you get that out of yourself and out of your mind in a way that it's going to be relatable and understandable, first by the media, and then second by their audience, which are readers or viewers. And it's a lot easier said than done, but I think with the right approach and with the right partners and a lot of trial and error, it's certainly accomplishable.
So we have three different perspectives today. We have the in-house PR perspective, the do-it-yourself version, and we have the agency perspective. So Sally, let's start with you. Tell us about Dynasty's approach to PR. What are you juggling every day? How are you keeping the Dynasty message out there in the marketplace?
Right. So Dynasty Financial Partners is a platform for independent financial advisors. We do middle and back office, marketing, technology, operations, P&L, et cetera. So we provide full service to advisors, including public relations. So the way I engage with the advisors is I help them launch their business. So I am helping them announce their story when they first break away, often from a wirehouse, to tell that story to the external world. So I am doing that press release. I am training them to talk to the media. Most of the advisors I'm dealing with have never talked to a reporter before. A lot of them are coming from the wirehouses. I worked at Citigroup for 11 years, and my job was to enforce that no advisor was ever allowed to talk to the media, and in fact, we fired advisors for talking to the media. So I understand why they have no experience. So I'm training them up to deal with the media, which is, it looks really easy. One false step and you can step in some real trouble. And then I work with advisors ongoing. And just to give a lay of the land of the media, there are so many media outlets now focused on this space. When I joined Dynasty 12 years ago, coming from Citigroup, where we had hundreds and thousands of reporters around the world covering us, I was explaining to reporters what an IRA was. Today, we have half a dozen reporters that are Dynasty is their beat. They're covering every single thing we do. I mean, it's just amazing the explosion of reporters and publications. So there's just so much opportunity for advisors to tell their story, but it has to be in a very disciplined, strategic way.
I found that interesting too, because to your point, the media landscape has definitely changed. The digital realm, the social media realm, there are a lot of publications. Sure, there are a lot that are covering the financial advisory space, but there are a lot that are fantastic journalists out there, but now there's a whole category, a gray zone of reporters who don't necessarily have to follow the same rules as a trained reporter. So it makes it a little bit trickier. So let's pivot to the agency view. Jimmy, we refer to PR at StreetCred as a contact sport. So what do we mean by that? And in your opinion, what separates average PR practitioners from the best?
Well, obviously, I think it deals a lot with knowing your industry, right? Any firm here at Jolt could easily go hire a PR firm, but buyer beware. I guess the same could be said about the type of advisor that you hire. I know at StreetCred and a few of our own competitors and with executives like Sally, we really understand the industry. So we're going to be conversant in what our clients are trying to accomplish in terms of the nomenclature that they use, whether it be practice management or investment management, growth strategies, inorganic or organic. And I think what it boils down to is, does the team that you're assembling around yourself understand all of that, and have they put in the practice hours in order to launch your campaign, to drive your campaign, to continue your campaign? Right now we just saw the NFL draft take place, and it's not as if that you could assemble a team and then go out into the field and win the Super Bowl. You assemble a team, you practice together day in, day out. And you lick your wounds when you have losses, you celebrate your wins, and you just keep trying and better every day. At Street Cred, we talk a lot about 1% better each day. And if we're able to do that, then 10 days from now, 100 days from now, we're going to be unbeatable. So.
Absolutely. And Vance, you have a really interesting perspective. So Jimmy just gave us a taste of what PR is like in an agency. You had an agency, which you got your first experience in public relations via that agency, and then you parted ways with the agency. So tell us about the do-it-yourself perspective.
Sure. So when I started my firm 8 years ago, it was after 10 years of consulting leading financial advisors nationwide on how to invest for high net worth and ultra high net worth clients. So I've spent literally thousands of hours of my life inside of private wealth management offices, family offices, RIAs, the wirehouses, you name it. I know what they do, I know what they don't do. And I thought, that might give me some level of competitive advantage, if you will, and figured I could put together 10 or 15 clients and not travel anymore and just go become a financial advisor. It's so easy, all the wholesalers said. So I called the chief marketing officer who was at the firm at which I worked for the majority of that decade in my former career. And I said, I like two things. I like really advanced planning, idgits, islets, grots, cuperts, you name it, really multi-generational asset transfer and wealth retention. And I also love economists. I'm very lucky to know several of them that are in the financial media. I became friends with them in my former career. And she goes, well, you know what you need to do? You need to have a website. You need to do it the right way. And you need to really take what's in your head and convey it in the most appropriate way. So she endeavored the introduction to this PR agency who did the website. And I remember he's like, you really need to be in financial media. I'm like, no. I don't want to do that. Like, you talk about anxiety. On camera, television, radio. What if I say the wrong thing? What if I drop an F-bomb? Those of you who know me understand the concern. Anyway, so I just was really apprehensive about the whole thing. But I hired him, and he endeavored some introductions to key members of the Fourth Estate, did the website, and it was great. And what I found over time is that having formed strategic partnerships with some of these journalists, I would then give them news stories and ideas, or they love breaking inside scoop type deals, right? And it snowballs, and all of a sudden the phone started ringing, and DMs on Twitter started coming in, and all of a sudden I found myself trying to field the media relationship. So it wasn't like I set out to go, I'm gonna do it myself, and I'm gonna save myself the capital. Yeah! It was just, you all of a sudden have these resources and these contacts, and then it's about the relationship. So the objective for me was to leverage what was in my head and form these relationships, and it happened. And to this day, it's just, they're all in the Rolodex. It's easy.
And how do you manage all those relationships? I mean, you build momentum over time. Initially, you might have a slow trickle of a couple reporters. I know you have some that you're close with. The Jeff Benjamin story is a good one that I want you to tell. But then that sort of compounds itself. PR is about momentum. It's about being consistent. So once you have 5 reporters, 10 reporters who have you on speed dial, how do you manage that flow, and how do you prepare to interact with them?
Journalists are very busy people. News does not wait for compliance. By show of hands, anyone here have a compliance department? Yeah, don't bother with them anymore. I'm just kidding, okay? You have to really understand the compliance nuances, and over time you learn what to say and how to say it so that you can make it compliant. It's okay to be nervous, number one. Number two, once you have the relationships established, when they call your personal cell phone, unless you're in a client meeting, asleep or on a plane, you answer them. And they love honesty and they love integrity. So if they call you about a particular breaking news story and you don't have the expertise in that, tell them that. They will appreciate that. And maybe offer a name or 2 or 3. Now, I know this is the financial services business and everybody's cutthroat and everybody's competing against each other, but this next generation of financial advisors is very collaborative. Look at all of the idea sharing that we've seen here just today, the first day of this conference. It gives me so much hope for this industry. So it's okay to share contacts. There are several financial advisors that I know that if I don't have expertise in a particular area, I will make the introduction, and the Fourth Estate really appreciates that.
So you've covered one aspect of PR, which is connecting with reporters, making yourself available and being useful for them as they're trying to tell their stories. And Jimmy, maybe we can pivot to you. Talk a little bit more about how you establish long-term connections with journalists. What's the secret to that? How have you been so successful? I've never seen anyone better than you at getting reporters to know that when Jimmy Moak gives them a call, a text, an email, they reply very quickly. Why is that? How do you establish those connections?
Well, I do have one quick question. When you were mentioning being a source for reporters, are you one of the unnamed folks that gives Brooke Southall a story that then my phone rings and then I'm going into triage mode for a certain?
No.
I think the quickest way to form a relationship, obviously, is to let the person know that you're real, you're authentic, that you're there to help. You know, whether it's a new cub reporter or an established grizzled veteran who has been reporting on the industry for years, I think there's still ways that you can find to be helpful as an agency player. But it starts and ends with understanding what they write about and how do you fit your client into their beat. The easiest way to make an enemy with a reporter is to send them an offbeat pitch. And we see folks like Pavia and others on Twitter quickly roast. They do it, you know, politely. They don't name names. But if you want to follow Jim Pavia for a laugh about what it's like to work in our industry, just see the types of pitches that land in their inboxes minute after minute that are off target and that do not help them do their jobs more quickly and better. You know, one thing that I think that is also important about what we do is that we have a few client assignments that will go unnamed, but sometimes we're their shield, meaning we're keeping them out of the media, and sometimes we are their sword, where they really have a precise story that they want to be told, that they want to tell to a certain reporter that has a certain type of audience that takes a delicate strategic touch. And I think what differentiates street cred from others, and this is not a pitch, but we really do focus in on what the client goal is, and then how do we strategically go about that. Whereas back to the Pavia example, it's, you know, there's a lot of spray and pray folks out there. Advisors do it too. I mean, like, I get the same type of pitches into my LinkedIn inbox.
You know, I think that's an issue, is that a lot of advisors and people in general just don't understand what news is, what's going to be considered newsworthy.
Yep.
I sort of put it in similar to like college essays. Don't write about world peace. Write about the, you know, blades of grass on your grandmother's lawn. You know, you really need to get specific. And those people that have niches, you know, whether you're working with divorcees or, you know, airline pilots or whatever, I mean, that's really interesting. So I think it's defining for those advisors, defining what is newsworthy. And the fact you do financial planning is not newsworthy.
Right. So Jimmy was talking a lot about sword, shield, offense, defense. Sally, in your role, you know, being an in-house PR practitioner is a very interesting proposition because you represent one brand, numerous messages, sure, but you're guarding the brand. You want Dynasty to be reflected well in the media, but you also have to defend against competitors in the press, journalists thinking they have a juicy story that may not be as juicy as they think, and then you have to deal with them without burning those bridges. So you want those reporters as long-term relationships. So from that perspective, walk us through how you approach media relations and connecting with these reporters.
Yeah, well, similar to Jimmy, I mean, I've been in the business a long time, and so, you know, my key sources, they know I know the business, so I'm not going to call them with a dumb pitch. I mean, we're on the same wavelength. They know I would not contact them. I would not be, I can work with them. They trust me because I'm there with good stories and bad stories. I'm going to continue to work with them, and they know that. So I think you're just on a different level of sophistication, but it's fine-tuning that message. So we have the mantra, we never throw rocks at anybody. We're not, I've seen competitors that have thrown rocks at us and said really nasty things about us in the media. We're the opposite. It's always a high road. We're never going to say anything bad. That said, we're very competitive, and we do continually massage our messaging because our business model's changing. We're getting into new businesses. We're changing our strategy. So we're continuing. I work very closely with our CEO on defining what that messaging is so that, again, I've got the reporters who understand how we're, the nuances of how we're different from competitors.
Yeah. And that's a great point. United Capital is also very good at this, is not throwing rocks at competitors. You don't go out attacking your competitors. If you're in an interview with a journalist, talk about your own value proposition.
It's a small industry.
It is.
I mean, there's really no upside.
So while it might feel fun in the moment to take a few shots.
You may end up working for that person.
Yeah, either that or you're going to find them saying something back.
All those things I said, I was just kidding.
Let's do a quick PR myth and reality round. So all press is good press. Sally, what do you think?
Yeah, I think, I think we're probably all aware of some senior wealth management executives who've spoken at conferences and made very controversial comments that then got leaked to the media, and it ended up really damaging their brands to the tune of millions of dollars. So I think any thought that any press is good press, that is just one case study. God forbid anything like that happen to any of us, because that was a disaster. So no, I don't think all press is good press. I think you have to be very careful with dealing with the press.
Agreed. Yeah, especially in this industry.
Exactly.
In financial services, absolutely have to tread carefully.
Be very disciplined. Yeah. Be very much on message.
PR will make your phone ring, Vance. True or false?
Depends. So everybody thinks that if you get on television that people just your inbox blows up, people call your phone. I've done local television like KUSI in San Diego. I've done CNBC, blah, blah, blah. That's not a brag. It's just a reflection. And I'm here to tell you that the KUSI segment, which was 6 minutes, and it was on ADUs in Southern California, how your next door neighbor is retiring on passive income using that, spare garage, the granny flat. I get back to the office, I had 17 voicemails, okay, ranging from, I got $3,800 in an IRA and I want to know what that Bitcoin thing is, to, I have an old garage and I'd like to convert it. So, does your phone ring? It can, right? But the television aspect of things is largely, for me anyway, to take segments, send them to clients, particularly if they're relevant to that client, and then also just for brand awareness, right? There was a great session that Taylor Schulte did on sales funnel and how those different segments can go in the client conversion process. Some people are really camera shy. If you're camera shy, don't get on camera. If you're really shy at first, maybe give it, some practice, and eventually you too will probably be comfortable. But it's a big misconception that if you're in financial media, you got Sarah, right? And she's drinking her coffee and she reads an article that you're quoted on CNBC and she's like, hey, Bob, get in here. We got our new financial advisor. This is the dude. It just doesn't work that way, right?
Jimmy?
I would add to that, we have a joke at the firm where clients expect, when's my chance at a cover story? And I will jokingly say back to them, well, go run a Ponzi scheme or maybe rob somebody, and then you're going to be on the cover of lots of magazines. And, the takeaway there is that it takes time to create a true media resume that is going to speak to all that you do and all that you offer to clients. So whether it is about creating income off of a renovated garage or whatever it might be, the takeaway is, I'm willing to bet that they wanted to do that story. You weren't necessarily pitching them that you're an expert on how to take portions of your home and to turn it into income generators. They probably saw another story in the national media and they wanted Vance to come in and talk about what this all means. What I'm getting at is that the news is being driven by surveys, economic indicators, what the market is doing, you name it. That doesn't mean that they're going to talk about how you go about serving or solving someone's financial life management needs. But getting the exposure and then taking that, whatever it might be, if it's about 529s or life insurance or whatever, then when you go to amplify it, you are able to say whatever it is that you want to about it, which is where that credibility marketing takes place.
And it's the long game.
Yeah,
Exactly.
Very much.
Yeah, that's so true. I mean, PR is about building initially the foundation of trust and respect with journalists, and then you put the building blocks in. We talk a lot at Street Cred about building media profiles. And what we mean by that is consistency and momentum over time. Sally mentioned earlier, there are a lot of publications out there. If you want to consistently feature in them as a credible expert source, you have to develop that rapport and trust with journalists. And then you have to keep those embers lit over time. You have to make yourself available, as Vance said, when they call, you have to be ready to go. We're running a little short on time, but I want to hear the Jeff Benjamin story, Vance. I think the audience would appreciate your connection to Jeff, how you met him.
Yeah, sure. And if you don't follow Jim Pavia or Jeff Benjamin, take out your phone, go to Twitter, follow them now, and say that Vance Barse said to do it, and then they'll block you. All right, so I hired this PR agency, and it was the day after we moved. My wife and our 2 kids, moved from coastal San Diego inland, because after a certain age, that's just what you do. I was on 4 hours of sleep, the house is packed full of boxes, and the phone rings, and it's the PR agent. He's like, all right, I got Jeff Benjamin ready. He wants to talk about alternative investments. And remember, I used to raise capital for high net worth and ultra high net worth clients. I'm like, well, when does he want to talk? He goes, well, now. I'm like, I can't talk right now. He goes, listen, when Jeff Benjamin is ready to talk, you talk. So we get on the phone, and it's very awkward. 1, because I'm tired, and 2, because Jeff is asking me questions about some of the product suite, and I was terrified because I'm just thinking that there's some compliance person just sitting there waiting, going, you broke a rule or something. So I was terribly nervous. It lasted about, 90 seconds, get off the phone. And the next day I heard that he was coming to a conference in San Diego. So I got in my SUV and I took a picture of the passenger side seat and I tweeted it to him in a direct message. I said, what do you think of this seat? And he writes back, he's like, looks comfortable. Why? I'm like, because that's the seat that you're going to sit in when I pick you up from the airport and drive you to this conference personally, because we had this conversation and it kicked off a whole dialogue between Jeff and yours truly. And so we got together at the conference, sat down for what was supposed to be a 5-minute coffee meeting, and it was a 90-minute me pouring my heart out to him meeting. And actually, I did some due dil on Mr. Benjamin and learned that he is a Marine. My grandfather was a Marine and made a figurine of himself. So I brought that figurine in my briefcase and I put it on the table, and he looks at it and he goes, what's that? I said, this is a figurine that my grandfather made, and I just want you to know that there are some patriots left in this country, and I really appreciate your service. And we talked for 90 minutes, and he's like, God, you have all this knowledge and experience. Like, this is fantastic. I'm going to start using you as a source. And that meeting launched so many other connections to people in the media. They all know each other. They all talk. And just like our industry, it's remarkably small.
We got 60 seconds left. Sally, one takeaway for the audience with regard to PR.
I just think it's a huge opportunity that a lot of advisors don't consider. So I just think it's something that should be added to the marketing mix, because it's not just generating positive media for you and your practice. That also then gets leveraged through social media, which we've been discussing throughout this whole day. So the impact can be gigantic. And frankly, we've been able to work with some advisors, generate articles, and they have gotten huge accounts from it. It doesn't always happen. There are some key publications, but it can generate, in some cases, immediate business. But it really is a long game, and it really benefits you to be telling your story over the long term, generating positive visibility for yourself. It's only going to benefit your business.
Absolutely. Jimmy, final thought?
Whether it's marketing or PR, know your audience. And when you're speaking to them, make sure that they know that you know them. Otherwise, I think it's just a waste of time and mixed messages.
Outstanding. Folks, thank you very much for coming to this PR panel. Any questions for the group about public relations? Anything at all on your mind about PR, whether we've covered it today or you've just been curious? Yes.
What's the best way to reach out to, if you've identified a journalist that you're like, wow, if I follow their feed, I can get everything they do? Is it Twitter now, or is it try to reach another way?
Well, Twitter is definitely a viable way to reach out to a reporter if they follow you back and if you're connected, because them following you back indicates interest in what you're doing and talking about. So it's one route. It's not always the best route. It depends on how active the reporter is. Jimmy, you want to take that one? What other suggestions would you have?
Smoke signals. No. Whether it's, look, you can go to Jeff Benjamin's byline on Investment News. His email is right there. You can go to the Contact Us. His phone number is right there.
Just read his stuff first.
Yeah.
You stole the words out of my mouth. I would prove to him that you know that this story is right for him based upon what he wrote. Jeff, I read your story about how Vance Barse was offering you insights on alternative investments and why today's investors need to diversify beyond stocks and bonds. I wanted to tell you a little bit about X, Y, and Z. What is that going to accomplish? Every reporter, they have egos, just like all of us, right? So stroke it a little bit. Don't go over the top, because they'll see right through that, but show them that you are reading their work, you are digesting their work, you are thinking about it, and then you're figuring out how does it, or why does it connect to what it is that I do, and the story that I would like to be a part of. I'm sorry about that.
Absolutely. And we teach our PR team and our clients that. Read the stories, get to know their beat and what they're talking about. Other questions? Yes.
Hi, I'm new to finance marketing area. I used to be in academia. What is the value of putting stories on the wire?
I'm going to take that one. Sally?
Read on business
She was
wire?
asking
Right.
about
Sally,
putting news releases on the wire.
Go ahead,
So-
Sally. Or Jimmy.
Go ahead, sorry.
No, you're on a roll.
What is the news release going to accomplish? It's your one chance to tell the story like you wish that you could. Now, I would prefer that most news releases are light on bias and they are light on patting ourselves on the back or the company or the person or whatever. Obviously, if it's like a huge milestone, yes, you want to celebrate it. But the news release is there to, I think of them more as a marketing and news vehicle. Because what Sally was saying earlier is about the credibility that you're able to get from the story that is written by a reporter that is not affiliated with your company. So, because that's where the credibility comes, right? Now, the reporter, it's not their job to write your press release verbatim and everything that you want to be picked up in the story. It's great when it happens, but it doesn't happen often. So I think 1 + 1, story plus the press release, now you start to have the building blocks of a campaign against the overall story that you want to tell.
Also, by putting it on Business Wire or PR Newswire, it gets into Google Analytics, and therefore it can start going viral online.
Yep, absolutely. And that provides a nice link that you can put on social and do a lot of things with. Did you have anything to say, Vance? Or?
So I can't emphasize enough the credibility aspect. Like when you go to these financial advisor or wealth management firms' websites, as seen on or in, right? Forbes, Wall Street Journal, whatever. Think about your target client. Is your target client going to go to your website and see that and go, wow, they really know what they're talking about because they're in these major news publications. If you have any doubt, the answer is yes, right? You don't have to do that to build the credibility. But on the issue of client acquisition, I've written pieces for CNBC. There was an oil executive in Houston, Texas, who read this particular story about tax loss harvesting and how to tweak a non-qualified portfolio when markets are down. Not freak out, but use it as an opportunity to get out of expensive, tax-inefficient lots of legacy mutual funds to get it. You already know all the things. He read it, he called me, and it's a $2.5 million client. Like, it will work. It takes time and consistency, but it will work.
All right, we're about to get the hook. Thank you all very much.